What's up, guys, and welcome to Footage File with a PH. This is going to be the way cooler, way more successful version of the sister channel Footage File with an F, the fat one, the lame one. Well, I'm still going to be posting things on there, but on this one, I'm going to talk about new things. It's only about the future. It's the whole idea with this one. Let's talk about something that I literally just watched. I literally just finished watching it last night, and it's the first thing I've binged in a while, which is super cool because I don't feel compelled to binge things a lot. I'm not one of those people who can just sit in one sitting, the giant bag of Cheetos, and just rip my way through 6 seasons of The Office. I'm not that kind of person. I like the anticipation building in between each one. I love how, these streaming platforms of new shows are releasing episodes one at a time. And that's really dope, and I really love to see that. Just because personally for me, I like the feeling of looking forward to things. So anyways, this one is a true crime series called Night Stalker. I have no clue who the Night Stalker is. I had no clue what it was, but I just saw it came up. It was number something of the day. And it actually came out this year, 4 episodes long. Each one's 48 minutes or something like that. I thought,
you know what? We'll take a crack at it.
Because I like true crime. I love Forensic Files so much. I'm actually super addicted to Forensic Files. I've probably seen every single episode of Forensic Files. Just because forensics to me is so fucking incredible. It's just so awesome. They can pull fingerprints from inside gloves, and it's the killer was his brother all along. I love that shit. It's so removed from reality. It's so stylized. There's 12 layers of varnish on it. It's you're watching an old serial that's been written, and of course it's been written because it's a teleplay, but it's super easy to forget that all this crap is real.
This is real crap.
These are real people getting hurt. And that's how I felt when I watched Unsolved Mysteries, which, why was I surprised how sad that was? Because it's literally called Unsolved Mysteries. Every episode ends, and it's the family, and they're I
never knew what happened to my brother.
And then it just ends. And it's actually emotionally affecting, and it kind of turned me off on the whole idea of criminology and shows about that. Then I got too much in my own head just thinking oh, this is real people. This is real people going through real struggles. Literally the worst events ever in these people's lives are happening. It was hard for me to disconnect from that. Now I'm in the mood to watch true crime that's really emotional and actually feels really genuine and really real and kind of delves into the emotion. And not that Forensic Files didn't do that, because Forensic Files did. But it was you'd get a little McNugget right at the end, and then that's it. And then it cuts to credits. It's that's literally the substance of the story. We have our main character, who is Gil Carrillo, who's a real dude. He had this wonderful relationship with his father, and his father died. All he ever wanted was to make his father proud, and it's right off the bat, you're oh no, I'm gonna feel something in this. This is too coming out of the gate so strong. Carrillo is this really, really devout, honest, hardworking police detective, and he just wants to do the right thing. He's raised to only do the right thing and make his dad proud. And it's so sweet. He's so pure. He's such a pure guy. And he kind of slowly rises through the ranks and becomes a detective. He has a wife and they have a few kids, and they're doing fine. Everything's going fine. He's really interested in homicide. There's at one point, one of the Night Stalker's victims is he kind of molested some kids at some point, and he did a bunch of other shit which kind of made him hard to track because he was hard to pin down. There was no pattern to anything. And at one point, one of the kids, this little girl, she likes Gil. She's I like him because he reminds me of my teddy bear. And Gil's recounting this story in the doc, and it's he gets choked up and he's
I've got a soft spot for kids.
I was oh, Gil, maybe you don't want to say that. So these Night Stalker murders start happening, and no one knows it's all the same guy. There's nothing to link all of these except for some footprints left at the scene, and it's boot prints. It's clearly not enough to link all of these murders together. Incredible how huge this guy was, and how big of a problem this was, and how many people were so scared, because literally no one was safe.
Literally no one was safe.
He did everything. Molested kids. He killed old people. He killed young girls. He stalked young girls on the freeways. This dude was into everything you could imagine. So right off the bat, it starts, and there's this excellent shot, and we're moving through a city, and it's kind of later in the evening, the sun has gone down. There's this beautiful helicopter shot. I'm an absolute sucker for helicopter shots. It's literally my bread and butter in filmmaking. That shit absolutely rocks my socks off. We're moving through the city skyline and it's upside down. That's so simple, but I loved it. I loved it so much and I was like, I'm hooked. I'm hooked from this upside down shot. It sounds like I'm 7 years old.
It's just a good time.
You know? Bad shot, turn it upside down. Good shot. No, but it's just that perspective. I just really enjoy that. It's like when if you shine like a light from under and you're like a campfire, like a scary story, light naturally comes from above. So just oppositely, it's interesting. So you've got Gil Carrillo. He's like this honest, proud, trustworthy, noble, helpful, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, reverent dude. He's just this like absolute G of a man. The dude's a fucking saint. And he's so cool. Shows up on the scene. He's like 23, and the only thing he's got going against him is the fact that he's a Mexican. He starts to notice the link between all these different random cases. Part of me can kind of excuse the police department at the time, because you're like, okay.
Obviously, Gil, this isn't really being done by one dude.
And then on the other hand, it's also a little bit racist. You know, everyone thinks that he's just trying to, make his mark on society. This is what he says. This is what he specifically says. And this is what some of the news outlet people that they interview talk about, the racial issues. None of the white cops who were interviewed say anything about this, which is, makes sense. I doubt that any white people would want to admit that they were formerly racist. Gil shows up and no one believes him. And then fucking Frank Salerno shows up. Frank Salerno is the complete antithesis of Gil. He's this no-nonsense, no bullshit kind of dude. Everyone respects him. He's got this great track record with solving cases and, getting shit done. That's just what he does. He just gets shit done and everyone respects him for that.
Oh my god, it was Frank Salerno and he walked by me.
Everyone has a huge hard-on for this dude for some reason. And good, he's a respectable man. And he's doing his job and he's really good at his job. So people look up to that. But he sees something in Gil, and this is where it gets really interesting. And here's what Gil has to say about believing that all these random murders and random kidnappings and stalkings might be connected. And he's like,
you know what? I think this Gil guy might be onto something.
And as soon as Frank is like,
yes, we believe that it is actually one man doing all of these things. This is what we have come to believe.
Then the police chief's like,
I guess it is really one man. I never thought about that. That's weird. No one else gave me that idea. I'd never heard of that before. Wow, what a novel concept, Frank Salerno.
Anyways, the case starts to progress, and it starts to get really interesting. There's some political issues. Once they kind of are getting closer and closer to capturing the Night Stalker, he fucks off to San Francisco for a day, and he kills someone up there. So then there's this huge jurisdiction problem, because now the San Francisco police are in on it. The mayor of San Francisco, she gets wind of the case, and she says things in a press release completely unauthorized that she was not allowed to say, and it gives away information that lets the serial killer know what they are onto him about, his shoe size. As soon as she said it, you can tell on the people's faces in the room that
are we gonna stop her from saying these things?
I don't want to spoil too much, because if you're gonna watch it, I would say watch it. Some gripes I've got with it is that it's really in terms of this kind of content, the Netflix true crime documentary series, which there's a lot of this, not just Netflix, other streaming platforms. This kind of thing is really pretty standard nowadays, and it really just does go in one ear out the other. It's wow, this is really interesting, and I really love this. But I really wanted to highlight this one particularly, I think just because the people involved are so goddamn interesting. Each character feels like an archetype. It feels like a movie character. They're so charismatic and they're so open and vulnerable in what they're talking about. They feel so 100% real. Sometimes you watch Forensic Files and the people, there'll be the police detective. And then I walked into her bedroom and I saw that she had been undressed. And then I called up the police department. It's so boring. It's obviously they don't have to be interesting, that's not what they're there to do. They're there to just do their jobs, and they do their jobs really well, but it makes it so much better when these people are actually fucking interesting and actually worth listening to. This is gonna sound, I think, kind of shitty maybe, but in terms of these sort of series, this genre of documentary, it's is it important? It's it's not investigative per se. All the Evidence is there. The verdict has been reached. All they have to do is just present it as it was. It doesn't feel like, other documentaries do where we're exposing things, where it's more like it's expository. It's like muck raking and we're really digging through the dirt. It's an acting change. It's like inspiring people to do things differently. I mean, of course, if you watch Night Stalker and you don't feel like,
oh, maybe I should lock my doors at night,
then you're literally insane. This kind of thing really fades into the background. Night Stalker would never win Best Limited Series at the Emmys. In terms of like boilerplate docuseries, like true crime, where you want to feel something and you don't want to just get the style, as in you want to see murder not in a fun way, you want to see murder in like the real way, and you want to like feel what that feels like, then I would totally recommend this one. Because there's like no real varnish on it. Gil Carrillo and his wife, she ends up leaving him at some point just because it becomes not safe for her to be around him while he's investigating the case, because he's being so publicized so much. He's in the news every other day with Frank Salerno, and it's like, what if the Night Stalker decides to show up and murder him and his family, which he very well could do because he knows who he is, and it wouldn't be too hard for him to like get an address or follow this dude. So she leaves with the kids and she's like, we're not coming back until this case is over, until you complete this. Finally, when they catch him at the end, then they embrace. There's this beautiful, honestly beautiful moment. Honestly brought tears to my eyes. And Gil says, now you can come home. And I just know that in the movie version of this series, which I really don't know why they haven't made a movie of this, because it's so good. In the screenplay version, he would say, now you can come home. And she would be like, and so can you. And it would be really poignant, and that would get all the moms to cry. Because it really does put a strain on this dude's family. And you can see, like, he's turning into someone who he's not. He's working 18-hour days in the pursuit of this killer. And that way it kind of reminded me of Zodiac. And the tagline of the movie Zodiac is there's more than one way to lose your life to a serial killer, which I always thought was really interesting. And that's what the movie's about. It's about Robert Graysmith, Jake Gyllenhaal, just like literally spending his life obsessed with trying to find the Zodiac. And that one, to be honest, is actually more like sad to me because there's no vindication. The Zodiac killer, spoilers, the Zodiac killer was never caught. Was actually never found. And even though he has the personal vindication that he basically proved that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac, they could never prosecute him because there wasn't enough actual forensic evidence. There was like circumstantial evidence and shit like that. This feels so vindicated because all of Gil's work spent into finding the Night Stalker actually pays off. And it was actually all worth it. And it's that, I love that dilemma. It's so interesting to me. It's so compelling that I'm neglecting my family, but I'm literally trying to stop a serial killer. And, like you can sit on either side of the aisle and what do you think he should have done? That kind of thing. So that is really compelling. It's really intriguing. One thing that really sucks is the cliffhangers. Each episode ends with a cliffhanger because it has to, because Netflix has to like convince you to keep watching the show.
I don't no clue why they would need to do that.
And usually that doesn't work on me. Usually these like lame cliffhangers don't really make me want to keep binging it. But this one did. And that's why it made me so much more mad. The cliffhangers have no weight to them. Like the end of the first episode, like you think they're gonna catch him at the end of the first episode, and they're like, and then there he was, or some shit like that. And then in the next episode it starts and it's like, but it turned out it wasn't him. And it's like,
what? Like,
and it's like so stupid. I hate it. It makes sense, of course, but it's so dumb. It's like if you had a guy hanging by his fingernails on like at the end, like a literal cliffhanger at the end of a season, and like that's the last shot, like he's just about to fall, like his grip loosens, cut to credits, and then it's a year later until you see the next season, and then it finally comes out, and turns out there was a tiny ledge that you couldn't see underneath it, so he falls onto that. All that time that you spent waiting and anticipating was for nothing. In that way, I am glad that I did not space out the watching of the Night Stalker. I just hate it when they do that. It's so dumb. Just good shit in this show. Really good shit. I would really heavily recommend it. Oh, one more thing. The Night Stalker is a name. So they find this guy.
And they're like, oh, what should we call him?
A bunch of papers give him different names and shit. But the one that really sticks is the Night Stalker. Obviously, because it's the best one and it's got such gusto. But the problem is that it sounds like a villain's name. It sounds like a WWE wrestler. It sounds like Black Widow versus the Night Stalker, episode 78. It's way too fucking cool. If I were a serial killer and I was watching the news, you're sitting there and you're chilling on a couch made of human skin or some shit like that, and you've just eaten your dog, and the news comes on, and they're like, yes, we can confirm now that there have been another series of grisly Night Stalker murders. I'd be like, that's fucking right! It just sounds too awesome. It kind of glorifies him a little bit. What we really should do is we should name these people really demoralizing names. I don't know why we haven't done this. It's always got to have some like zing to it so you can sell those papers. But wouldn't it be so incredible if it was like the little boy, the little bitch boy butcher has struck again. Can you imagine being a serial killer and listening to that? Maybe I should give us a second thought. That's what we need to do. I don't know why we haven't done that. We gotta demoralize these people. We can't glorify serial killers. It's not cool. But they are fun to watch because murder can be fun. It can be fun sometimes. That's what Forensic Files taught me. So no, this is a good series. But again, in one ear out the other, if you just want some boilerplate, well-documented serial killer investigation, I would recommend this one, especially if you know nothing about it, because then it builds more anticipation and there's more tension, and the face reveal is a lot more fun in that way. Yeah, that is basically it. I'm gonna give it. We're gonna do ratings. This one, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give this one an 85, just because it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So go fucking lock your doors at night. Holy shit, why aren't you doing that? But you know, if you only really have to worry if you're an old person, if you are an old man, or if you're an old woman, or if you are a little girl, or if you are like a girl in her 20s. Other than that, if you're me, you don't have to worry. So go out there.
Don't worry.
The Night Stalker.